Welcome to another episode of the Rockshow, and this is episode 55. And we have a special episode with two bands that historically supposed to are the first two black rock band or punk or photo band.
Yeah.
And they both have very different history how they came on. So today we're talking about Death and Pure Hell.
And I want to introduce Sapphire, the singer to Psychomotor Retardation. Great band that's been playing around for a while.
That's a great name for a band.
It's a great name.
Love
that name.
You know why? Because the outrage community was just,
oh, yeah.
You can't use that retardation.
Yeah, because the middle part of the word is retard.
Yeah.
Can't say that word no more. But we're talking about Death and Pure Hell. Death is a band that people really only discovered about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's like a great American story how this whole thing happened, how people discovered them, and now they ended up playing, recording new music, and and then Pure Hell is a band that was around in the 70s and in the New York City punk scene. And we're doing this for Black History Month too, remember? This is the special episode for February.
Oh, we're going to put this week? So I'll probably release. I was going to save this as episode 55 and just do it right after.
Well, you could do it, before the end of the month or whatever you want.
Yeah, all right.
It doesn't have to be in order.
Yeah.
But all right, so we're talking about Death first.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Okay.
What do you think of that name, Death?
As a name for a band?
Yeah, for a band.
Well, given the reason that he called it that, that they called it Death, I think it's good. Okay. Would I just off the top of my head call my band Death? Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
Cause that's like a tough sale. I'm just saying. My opinion is like, and if you're deaf, you're thinking that, and if you're deaf, you're thinking, and then hard rock. The first thing you think, a bunch of white boys. You would never think it's a bunch of black kids from Detroit.
There's actually a metal band, if you look it up, called Death.
Death?
That was rather like a speed metal band.
Speed metal, no.
Okay. So if I heard that name, I would think of that band.
That's what I would think of.
More like a speed metal kind of band. Or death metal, obviously.
Dude, but those guys were hell bent on that name, and this guy was like, we're a bunch of brothers from Detroit, Michigan. We're going to be playing rock and roll, and people are like, you're out of your mind.
I know. But the thing is there was, when I tell the story, you'll see there was a whole method behind that name. And that's part of the reason why people didn't know who they were for 40 years.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the spectrum, you got the bad boys from Philadelphia. Pure Hell.
Pure Hell was a different animal altogether.
They were fucking savages. It's fucking great. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so Mike, tell me the story. Let's get down.
All right, three brothers from Detroit. David, Bobby, and Dennis. David being the oldest. Last name Hackney.
Hackney, yeah.
Right. Now, they came from a very musical and religious family, okay? Their parents were into all kinds of music. They taught them as kids to be open to basically any form of music.
Yeah.
They pushed them to listen to about everything, pretty much.
You know what shocked me when he says his dad was watching the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan show. How many fucking black people you think even watched that? Serious, the Beatles.
You want to know something? That is still one of the highest rated shows ever on television, and I'm sure black people watch it.
There's probably nothing else.
They really Ed Sullivan. If you everything I've ever heard about Ed Sullivan, because it went off the air when I was little, so I don't remember it. But everything I've heard about it was must-see TV.
TV, so that's what was high rated.
I think, and they did have black acts and stuff on it.
I think the Jackson 5 performed on
with Diana Ross and all that.
But the Jackson channels back then.
Yeah, they were only a couple of channels.
The Jackson 5 was also like a phenom. That was,
I mean, I think that there was a lot of hype. I know that there was a lot of hype around the Beatles and before they came. I mean, the New York Post for 10 days before they came had a little beetle on the cover of the paper, and it was like 10 days to go, 9 days to go, 8 days to go.
Wow!
And then it was like they're here, and it was
the British image.
Yeah.
You want to hear? It's funny, but you hear about a bunch of brothers from Detroit, and what's the influence? All these white rock bands, which is amazing.
I mean, they were influenced. They were, like I said, they were very religious, so they were influenced by the church stuff, and then. In the 60s, like you said, they watched the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. and David and the boys said, we're going to be musicians. Okay, so they started a funk band.
I know.
Okay, because that's what they were exposed to probably more than anything else.
Oh yeah, but I'm just thinking of these kids.
Yeah.
And just the way, this way the stereotype, the church.
Yeah.
And then they play heavy metal in the background. The mother not even doing that's the devil music. I can see the guy.
No, she didn't act like that. No, she didn't act like that. But you gotta understand something. This story starts, and it really exists, in Detroit.
It's Detroit,
All right? Now, if you understand Detroit in the 60s and early 70s, rock and roll was everything.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was
okay,
multi.
and it was multicultural too, because like bands like the MC5 were attracting black audiences as well.
Of course.
They started the White Panther movement to work along the Black Panther movement.
I remember when we did that.
We did that. So it was, and Detroit's always been a mix of both.
Yeah.
So it's like, it makes sense that everybody was listening.
I remember being a kid and listening to Metallica.
Yeah.
And my mother would lose her shit. What the fuck are you listening to? That's the devil music.
No, I mean my mother called up my father one day. Right, my parents were divorced. My mother called up my father one day, and he called me later on that night and said, "You've been listening to." What have you been listening to? Ozzy Osbourne? You've been listening to Metallica? Judas Priest? And I wasn't even listening to Judas Priest. I don't know where that came from. Okay, my mother must have just heard of it. Are you listening to AC/DC? I'm like, yeah, every fucking day. It's like,
because the way I grew up, maybe Detroit was different, but grew up in New York. You listen to that. And especially that I went to Catholic school, you would fucking get shit on. It's like amazing.
You weren't listening to Madonna.
No. I was listening to My Lucky Star. I was kicking the shit out of the people listening to My Lucky Star.
Or like
Me
Cindy
too.
Lauper.
Cindy Lauper.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was.
Let me just vomit now.
Yeah. You ever see those psoriasis commercials he's got now?
Yeah.
I just want to throw a brick at the TV.
I see your true colors.
That's bad.
The red rash on you is your true color.
Leave her alone. She's got to make money too.
All right, let's get back on to talk about death. Okay.
Girls just want to have fun.
Now,
they do.
Now, they started out as a funk band.
Yeah.
Okay, and David, who was the oldest, like I said, went to see the Who one day in Detroit, and it was about 1973. And basically, after seeing that, he said, "No, this is changing our sound." And they were also listening to Alice Cooper. They were listening to the MC5 and the Stooges.
Yeah,
another guy they were listening to that a lot of people kind of forget was in the middle of all that was Bob Seger. Okay?
I love Bob Seger.
I mean, the stuff that he got popular for a few years later is totally different than the stuff he did in the 60s.
Yeah.
Totally different. Rambling, Gambling Man and stuff like that. That was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that song. I don't know if you noticed it.
Oh, yeah.
Rambling, Gambling Man when he's driving.
Yeah.
That's Bob Seger. It was called the Bob Seger System.
Yes, I remember that.
That's the stuff I like by him. The stuff later I don't really like, but
the first stuff I like.
Yeah, the early stuff. Now their dad was an electrical worker. He was a linesman.
Yep.
And one night, this is about 73, 74, he was a co-worker of his got electrocuted, and he was rushing the guy to the hospital, and a freak accident. His car got hit by a drunk driver, and he died instantly.
Wow.
So he was trying to save somebody, and he ended up dying. Now, the Hackney brothers were deeply affected by this, and, they went into a big grieving period. And David took it even deeper because he said that the brothers needed to start a rock band that would be called Death.
Yeah.
And he made a big thing about it, like, I'm going to tell you the name tonight. He wouldn't say what it was. And then he told them, and they were just like, okay. Like, they didn't like it, but they had they had this attitude of, he's our older brother, we're going to listen to him.
Yeah.
So that's why they agreed to it. And it was a deep loyalty the three of them had to each other. So they were going to back him, and it really, the idea was he was trying to turn something negative into a positive.
Yeah.
All right. Calling the band Death was almost a way of dealing with their father. Now their mother, recently widowed, showed a lot of support once they got the band together, and they were allowed to replace their whole bedroom with equipment. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
They
So
pretty
they
much
ripped,
made
they
a
ripped
studio
their,
in the house.
They made like a little studio in their house in Detroit. Small frame house, wasn't a big house, but in the upstairs, and they were allowed to play at full volume between 3 and 6 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
They have full reign during those 3 hours to do whatever they want.
So they probably went to school, came home, practiced,
Did their homework and
did their
yeah,
homework,
whatever.
and then they just jam, and that's it. And
Until their parents, until their mom came home.
So their mom came home from work or something.
and that probably was the ones that gave them the freedom to like learn and experience.
Yeah. And they were talented. They were good musicians.
Let me tell you if I'm right. Was Bobby the bassist and the voice?
Bobby was the bass player and the lead vocalist.
Yes, vocalist.
The drummer was Dennis.
Yeah.
Okay, and David played guitar, a little bit of backing vocals.
Do you see they spell Dennis like with a
With
A?
Dennis. It's not
Yeah,
Dennis, it's
Dennis.
Dennis. Whatever.
I looked at that. I was
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. But basically, they blew up the neighborhood with this. Okay, they mostly played in the house at first, and then occasionally they would be playing parties. But what would happen is, people would be hearing a band playing upstairs, and then people would start banging on the door, okay, trying to get in. Okay, and that's how they got the song "Keep on Knocking" on the album. Yeah. So they would play like backyard parties. They would play some house parties, but no one in the neighborhood knew what to make of these guys. I mean, they were just playing this like hard rock, heavy rock. They were black. Most people were listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire. Okay, and they're doing that.
But these guys were literally a garage band.
They were totally. Yeah, they were exactly by every definition of the word. Literally.
Yeah.
And they admitted that the more that they were told you can't do this because you're black, okay, the more they wanted to do it. They were like, "Fuck that! That's a punk attitude thing."
Yeah,
Exactly.
But people look at them now and they look like visionaries. Like they were.
They were like visionaries.
They were very different.
They were.
Yeah.
Okay. People used to give them a lot of shit for what they were doing. They didn't care.
And again, I'm reading this stuff, and this is one of the things I see. They are seen in many groups as one of the first punk black rock band in the world.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that's what we're saying.
But
they definitely, it to me. Well, what are you going to say? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that, and that's what we're going to talk about because I think Pure Hell was the first band.
I kind of lean towards that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little more about the bio of Death, and then we'll talk about Pure Hell. But to me, Death is more of a proto-punk.
Oh yeah,
band.
they're definitely proto-punk.
I think you can listen to that album and it sits in with, the MC5 or the Stooges or Alice Cooper.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It fits in with that Detroit sound of the day. Did they do something as inventive as the Ramones, who are the first punk band at anybody? Okay, no, they didn't. Because remember, the Ramones stripped everything down.
Yeah.
Okay. Down to just 2 or 3 chords. That was it. Okay. And these great harmonies. But Death was playing more of a rock. They had leads. I mean, Death were better musicians than the Ramones.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
they were very good musicians.
Okay, absolutely. At least in the beginning.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Dee Dee Ramone was a good guitar player.
Oh yeah,
and a good bassist.
Yeah,
but he's not given credit for that.
Yeah,
Johnny Ramone too.
People really look at lyrics so much in punk as they do.
They should.
The music, but I don't think they really do.
No, they look at the whole thing, kind of like what it, the craziness of it.
Because I've played in bands where the lead guitarist and the bass didn't even know the lyrics to the songs they were playing. They just
you're talking to musicians not worrying about the lyrics?
Right.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant the fans. Every band has its own thing, I guess. I mean, some guys. Well, what is it? I think Mick Jagger is on the record saying like, "I don't care about the lyrics," and he's the one singing them.
Right.
Okay, because what he'll do is if he doesn't like a certain lyric, he'll slur it.
Yeah.
I've read that about him.
But Frank Sinatra will forget the lyrics to his songs and jump into something else.
And he did that when he was young too. It wasn't just by being old.
No, he was just a guy that he did it a few times. It was funny, man.
Yeah. Okay, now they were recording some demos in their bedroom, and David decided it was time for them to get a real recording contract.
Yeah.
Okay? And he put a Yellow Pages on the wall, okay, on a shelf. And he took a dart, and he opened it up to the recording studio's page, okay, and just threw the dart. And where it landed, okay, was on a place called Groovesville Productions. Mm-hmm. And it was owned by a guy named Don Davis, who was a successful producer for Stax Records.
Yeah.
Okay, very popular at the time.
How crazy is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Not everyone remembers what Yellow Pages are.
Yeah, well, Yellow. You know, if you don't know,
White
it was the phone book.
It was a
Right.
roach. It was a roach killer.
Yes. and every police station had one.
Yeah. Oh,
because you got to
Yeah.
get beaten with the Yellow Pages in the basement.
Ooh, I got beaten by the Yellow
And the
Pages.
good thing
a few
about that,
times.
never left
Never
the bruise.
marked.
Yeah, wouldn't leave a mark.
I feel like I need to take his shit. The guy hit me with the Yellow Pages.
Go flying. You know. So the year was 1974, and they started recording at United Sound Recording Studios in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a famous recording studio that had Funkadelic, the Dramatics, Gladys Knight recorded there. Okay, so it was a really, very top-notch place. Now, David was 21, Dennis was 19, but Bobby was only 17. He was still in high school, okay, when he was singing. Now, they recorded an album, tentatively at the time, titled For the Whole World to See.
Yeah.
Okay? And Groovesville didn't know what to do with these guys. They didn't know how to break in an old black rock band.
Yeah, that
They
was
had
the
no
other
idea
thing.
how to do it. And the Death name was considered a drawback because people thought it was too nihilistic, too depressing. Okay, and
Once they gone with the name Rock Fire Funk Express.
yeah. They probably would have gotten the record out, even though it wouldn't have made sense with the music.
I just looked at that name and I kept saying, these guys are deaf. They're not this shit.
Well, I mean, at the time in the early '70s, a lot of black acts had names like that, but it wouldn't have made any sense with the music at all. Don Davis brought a copy of the album when he went to visit Clive Davis, no relation, okay, in New York City in 1975. Now, Clive at that time had started Arista Records, and Arista had just signed Patti Smith in '75. So they were looking to sign new bands in a, new kind of sound that was emerging out of New York and a few other places. But they passed on it because of the name. He said, "Talk to me when they change their name." Okay.
So they did like 7 songs, right? Is that what
I think it was about 7 songs for the album, or 8, something like that.
Yeah.
And when word got back to David in Detroit that Clive Davis said to suggest changing the name, he basically told them all to hell and asked for the masters back, the master tapes back. So his attitude was, we're going to take these tapes and we're going to go to somebody else, and we're going to find somebody that'll sign us with this name. Okay? Yes, unfortunately, they wouldn't. Now, they parted ways with Groovesville in 1976. They got their masters, which was good. They didn't give them a problem with that. And David was convinced that they could get recorded elsewhere, but what they did was, off the bat, they wanted to get some of the music out there, so they pressed 500 copies of the single on a new label that they started called Triangle Records.
Yeah.
It's like TRYANGLE Records. Okay? And it was the song called Politicians in My Eyes, and it was backed with Keep On Knocking. Now, great song, okay? There was only 500 of these made. Now, years and years later, it became a rare record. If you had it, it was worth it was worth quite a bit of money.
You couldn't find it.
Yeah, I mean, there was only 500 of them made, and actually, a lot of them ended up sitting in the artist who designed the label, the triangle and everything. It was like it was in his house, a whole bunch of them. So not even 500 got circulated.
Wow.
So very rare. But they pressed 500 copies. Now, in '76. What was taking over the world, right? Music industry, disco.
Yeah, disco, it started.
So it was hard for them, even in Detroit, which was a rock town, it was hard for them to get played on the radio. And those were the days when you could actually walk up to a DJ and say, "Hey, listen, I got this new record. You play this for me, $100, you know, whatever." Okay, that used to happen. All right.
Yeah.
And David in '78, I should say in that year in '76, still had this optimistic attitude that we're going to make it. And but with disco taking over and kind of like them not being able to get a lot of airplay, they were starting to get like depressed about it, kind of thinking like this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But they would get a phone call from a relative out in Vermont, Burlington, Vermont, Bernie Sanders' land. That's where he was mayor. Right? Burlington, Vermont, and they would relocate out to Vermont. Of all places.
Yeah.
Okay.
But pretty much at this point the band ended it, right?
Well,
In
it was
1977?
78 at that point, and they still had the idea of the band. They weren't really playing. They were coming. I think they were working together, still jamming.
Yeah, they were doing.
But
you know what they were doing?
What?
You know, they were the group, the Fourth Moving Gospel Rock.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm going to get to that.
Oh, yeah?
About a year or two away from that.
That's what I got at 77.
Gospel rock?
Yeah, they
No,
became gospel rock.
that was around 78, 79.
Yeah.
They started with that. But in 78, when they moved to Burlington, David immediately, like, first upon getting there, made up all these flyers with the word death
right.
on it, with the triangle symbol that they had, okay? And in a little sleepy town like Burlington with flyers of death on telephone poles, okay? They got a visit from the police department.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
Because people thought it was a gang
Terroristic.
thing. They thought it was gang violence, okay?
With the yellow pages.
Yeah. I think they got beaten up with the yellow pages. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Now, they just said, listen, you know, if that's the name of your band, you better change your name and send it this town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they pretty much had given up on death at that point. Yeah, you're in Vermont. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dead. You know, but these guys seem to go against the grain with everything they did. You know, some people are like that. Now, you mentioned the fourth movement.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was something that they actually decided to do. They wanted to get back to their religious roots. And they would play together as the fourth movement. And I've actually heard this record. There were two records that they put out.
Gospel rock?
Gospel
Gospel
rock.
rock.
And I've actually listened to the first one. And it's better than you think. It's not that bad.
No.
Okay, it was better than I thought I was gonna like. You know, when I first heard it, I was like, I'm not gonna like this. But then I'm like, you know what? It's actually not that bad. It's been re-released.
The music, like it was
The
gospel rock.
not as heavy, not as like hard rock.
Jesus, come all over me. Like, what?
Kind of, yeah. He's talking about Revelations a lot. Okay. And that seemed to be a theme on that first album that I heard. There's a second one that I didn't listen to. But the first one was about more like Revelations, and he's
like
mentioning...
apocalyptic.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Horsemen.
Yes.
Antichrist. In Vermont.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the triangle.
With the triangle.
Yes.
Okay. And, you know, the triangle meant the three brothers, the three sides.
brothers, yeah.
Okay. And they had like these little dots that were next to it, and it was something that David saw in the sky one day. Like he saw like a triangle, and he's like, and there was like little light poking through or something, and
They're
that's
just
how they
beating
got.
themselves
Yeah.
down more and more as you talk. The more you talk, the worse it sounds. Wow.
Now, in 1982, after a couple years of the gospel rock thing, David kind of just was like, "This is not what I want to do."
Yeah.
And he moves back to Detroit. But the other brothers stay there.
To the point that they even formed like a reggae band.
Yeah, the two brothers, Bobby and Dennis, started a reggae band called Lamb's Bread, which
Lamb's
I
Bread.
actually never saw, but I remember them. Okay, because they would be on bills sometimes, like on outdoor festivals for reggae shows, and I would see it, Lamb's Bread, which is
Lamb's Bread.
reference to weed, you know.
Right.
But like I never saw them. But I've seen clips of them now, and they're not that bad. They're kind of like a little poppy
Yeah.
They
reggae.
were doing gospel rock.
Yeah.
What was their name?
The fourth movement.
Fourth movement.
Fourth movement.
Yeah.
So they went from death to the fourth movement as gospel rock, and then
Yeah.
Lamb's Bread as a reggae artist.
No,
Yeah,
actually,
well,
there
the
were
two brothers, David
There were
left.
the Rock, Fire, Funk Express.
That was first.
Then
Yeah,
became
that then became
And
Death.
then that.
Then
Then
fourth
the fourth movement, and
then Lamb's Bread.
Lamb's Bread.
Yeah.
So now we're at 78.
About 82.
About
82.
Okay.
And that's when
The fourth movement was
Yeah.
done. Okay, and I gotta say, man, all the vodka I had yesterday, I had 4 movements today. It was fucking horrible. Okay.
They never let you in Vermont.
I told you that was gonna happen yesterday. That's why I'm drinking this weak shit today. Just trying to get my strength back. I got annihilated in this bar yesterday.
oh my god,
7B baby, 7B.
So
Thank you, Gina.
so David moved back to Detroit and dies in '82 from lung cancer.
Yeah, but there's about 18 years there.
Yeah.
Okay, he died in 2000.
Yeah.
They remained close, even though they were
Yeah.
separated by a few states. But they remained close, and there was, both of the brothers got married.
Yeah.
They all went to each other's weddings, and they remained close. David was recording his own stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, which never was released
No.
until years later. Okay, and some of it's pretty good.
I think
okay?
after he died, pretty
After
much
he
somebody
died. Well,
found him and-
once death was discovered. Okay. Now, sadly, he died in alcoholic, and he also died of lung cancer.
Yeah.
Okay, in the year 2000. But in 1983 was when Lamb's Bread started. Now they had actually 8 albums.
Yeah.
As Lamb's Bread, and they still perform today occasionally.
Yeah, they were the spirit. They were a reggae band. They were
Yeah.
like they did like everything. They
Right.
played every festival,
But-
but they were like a reggae band.
Real reggae band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the story doesn't end here, though. All right, this is just the beginning, okay?
Yeah.
Because Bobby and Dennis have a house together in Jericho, Vermont. They got 5 kids each. Bobby's children were unaware about their father and their uncles being in a band called Death.
Yeah.
They never told them about it, okay? And they only knew about the reggae band.
Yeah.
They didn't know about anything before that. Now, one day, Bobby's son, Bobby Jr.,
Yep.
comes across, he hears about a record by a band called Death.
Yep.
And he's a punk rock kid.
Yeah.
He's actually a punk
He's a
rock
punk-
kid.
yeah.
He's actually a punk rock kid.
And you know what's
he's
funny? I think he was actually in a band also. The kid didn't Bobby get into something?
He starts a
Yeah.
band in the middle of all
Yeah.
this, but originally it was, he was just talking about music
Yeah.
and, online with people, and he
Yeah.
comes across the Death single.
Yep.
Okay. Now the Death single had been released on some compilations over the years. Okay, and it was only the 2 songs that
Yeah.
anybody ever knew.
Yeah.
And if you had an actual copy of this thing, it was worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. Now Bobby somebody sends him an MP3 or something of the song. I think it's "Politicians in My Eyes,"
Yeah,
or maybe it was the
Politicians in
flip.
My Eyes,
It might have
yeah.
been the flip side.
It might have been both
Keep
of
on
them,
knocking.
so, yeah.
It might have been both. And he hears it and he's like, "That's my father's voice."
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, because Bobby Jr. Okay.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So, there was underground interest in the band was starting to get strong with this.
Yeah.
Now there was a record collector named Robert Cole Manis, and he got an $800 copy of the original single.
Yep.
Okay, on eBay, and he passed it over to a Chicago indie label called Drag City.
Drag City.
Now the
yes.
whole thing was everybody wanted to know if there was an actual album out there somewhere, not just a single.
Right.
Nothing was really known about them
But
in
there
the
was an
industry.
album, just
there
those
was,
7
but
songs.
guess where it was?
Where?
In their attic,
Yeah.
because they got the tapes.
Yeah.
Okay,
They had the masters.
they had the masters when they left the studio.
Right.
Yeah. So, Bobby Jr. started a band called Rough Francis. And it was right after he confronted his father about it, and his father says, "Yeah, that's us."
Yeah.
He
And
confronted him.
well, he kind of was like, "Is this you?
Is this
you know,
you?
is this you
Yeah.
singing this song?
Are
It
you
sounds
singing?
just like you."
You did
know,
this for me.
right? And he's like, "Yeah, that's us. You know, it was me and your uncle, your two uncles."
And this is a hit from me.
Yeah.
From that point on, that's a hell of a journey.
Yeah. So, Drag City was interested in anything they had from this band to put out. So Bobby got the tapes and brought them to Drag City, and they put the album out. Now, that was around 2010 or so that came out. Okay, that's when I started hearing about this band. All right, and Bobby Jr. would start a band called Rough Francis, and he would go out and do these songs off the album, his father's songs.
That's awesome.
Okay,
That is amazing.
and if you see the documentary Sapphire, like you see Rough Francis playing in front of all these young kids, singing his father's songs. He's like in his 20s, okay, singing his father's songs.
Which is fantastic.
April of 2015, they would come out with a new album. It's called New, N.E.W.
Yeah.
All right. And in 2011, between 2011 and 2012, some older material that they had recorded between 76 and 92.
Yeah, they had the spiritual, mental, physical.
Right. I have that album. It's pretty good.
And then they also had the other one, number 3.
Yeah, well, that's more unreleased stuff.
Yeah, more
yeah.
You want to hear something funny? They actually took one of the guys, guitarist from the Lambred.
Yeah.
Bobby Duncan. Became like the third official member since David died.
David passed away, so they needed somebody to replace him.
Yeah.
They wanted to get somebody they were comfortable with, and so they got the guitar player from the reggae band Lambspread. And when you watch the documentary, it's great because they didn't want to like pressure him to do it. They wanted him to kind of want to do it.
Yeah.
So they just kind of said, "This is Dave. This is our music." And he started listening to it, and he
gelled.
He aced it.
Aced it.
He
Was
totally
fun.
gelled with the band. I mean, they never played that kind of music before in the reggae band.
Yeah.
And he just boom. He did, and there was a point. There was a point in the documentary where I think it's Bobby telling it, where he's like, we went into the studio, we didn't know what to expect, and he said, Bobby Duncan had been practicing, and they didn't know what to expect, and he just went into like a solo, and it sounded just like David.
It's like David.
And they stopped playing, and they were like, guess that was the crying.
Yeah.
You sound like my brother,
Yeah.
So it's and they've played off and on around ever since. I think they did
They still get together once in a while, do a show or play whatever.
I don't know if Rough Francis is still playing around or not, but I think Death is still playing around. And
I think they're still
5 years ago was that last new material for them. But they're older guys now. They're in their 60s.
I was gonna say it gotta be like 65.
Yeah, they're about 65.
I think they're working on one more album.
Possibly.
Something like that I read.
Possibly.
And they might be doing something.
Yeah,
and I think that'll be like the Grand Pharrell album. That's
maybe,
it.
maybe. Definitely look them up, people. They're, if you haven't heard about this band, you have to check them out.
It's a very good band.
Yeah.
Very good band.
So let's move over to Pure Hell.
Pure Hell.
Pure Hell. Okay.
This is another one.
Now, Pure Hell can only be described as a story of missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Pretty much that's what it was.
Really, it was. Singer Kenny Gordon had said something very poignant once. He says, I don't want to be remembered because we're black. I want to be remembered for being part of the first tier of punk rock in the 70s. And I agree with that. That whole mentality.
Yeah.
I agree with that one.
Yeah.
These guys were from Philadelphia. You know how popular these guys? These guys were actually the band that influenced the Bad Brains. It wasn't Death. It was actually Pure Hell that influenced the Bad Brains. And that's amazing. And this is another story that's motherfucker. These guys could have been.
They could have been huge.
They could have been huge.
Yeah. Now it starts in 1974 in West Philadelphia. They were 4 teenagers. You had lead vocalist.
What's the Fresh Prince? Don't forget.
That's right. I forgot that. Yeah. Okay.
Playground.
Yeah. Lead vocalist Kenny Stinker Gordon. Guitarist Preston Chipwreck Morris. Bassist Lenny Steele Bowles. And drummer Michael Spider Sanders.
Yeah.
That's Pure Hell. They were obsessed with Jimi Hendrix, Iggy Pop and the Stooges, David Bowie, Alice Cooper, the MC5, all that stuff.
They had a lot of influence.
But they wanted to make something even heavier and faster.
Yeah.
So they would move to New York City. Nothing was happening in Philadelphia. So they would arrive the same month in New York City as Patti Smith started playing CBGBs.
Yep.
Okay? And they would also leave right after the murder of Nancy Spungen by Sid Vicious. So they were there at the peak of all that here in the city.
Dude, did Sid Vicious play with them in one song, I think?
Yeah, well,
I think
they backed
did.
Sid
Yeah,
Vicious.
they did, yeah.
Well, right, the stuff like Sid Sings,
Yeah.
like the live album. I
All
think
right.
that's guys from Pure Hell playing.
Wow,
Like,
yeah.
Well, do you remember the movie Sid and Nancy?
Yeah.
Do you remember there's that one scene when they're in the hotel room and Nancy Spungen saying, we got a band together, and one of the guys is like a black dude?
Yeah.
I think that's supposed to be one of the guys
Oh,
from Pure
wow,
Hell.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's
All right,
that's
that
what
makes
means.
sense.
They never said he had no speaking part, but but
Nice.
yeah. So singer Gordon had a teenage life that was immersed in music and movies, particularly John Waters movies. So he was influenced by movies very much, and that would create like some of the themes in their songs and stuff like that. And there was a place in Philadelphia called the Artemis, and they would all hang out there. Like this was like where all the weird people are. Okay, that kind of thing. And they used to dress in drag.
Yeah.
Right? But they were in the 70s. You could do that in some places and still kind of like not have that like gay thing thrown on you. Okay? It in the 70s you had the New York Dolls, for instance. Now a lot of people would look at the New York Dolls and go, they look gay. Okay, but the truth was they got more chicks than anybody. Okay, back in the day, and Pure Hell was kind of like channeling that a little bit.
Hair band, kind of.
Yeah, but 15 years earlier.
But way before. Right.
Way before. Now, all these guys were friends in Philadelphia, and they would all hang out, and they would wear wigs and be in drag. But then, if someone teased them, they'd like beat the shit out of them. So everybody was like, "Don't mess with these cats." But in 1975, they would move to New York City. Like I said, they moved to the Chelsea Hotel for a little while. And their first gig was in front of a store on St. Mark's Place called Frenzies. Okay? And Chip, his guitar caught fire. His amplifier, actually, caught fire. So it was a great way to break into the music business. Okay? Now, drummer Michael Sanders knew the Philadelphia native named Neon Leon. And Neon Leon was from Philly but had relocated to New York, and he had a lot of connections, mostly drug, okay?
Yeah.
And that led them right to the New York Dolls, boom, okay? And they got invited to play one day at the loft of the New York Dolls, which I think was over on Christie Street, if I remember right, okay? And when they first met, they were actually scared of the Dolls, okay? Because they were all dressed up, but they were sitting there like smoking weed, okay, and they were like watching like Bowery Boy movies or something on TV, and talking about it, and it just was like intimidating. Okay, so within a short time they became friends, and they would actually live with the Dolls in the loft also, and people would come over and they thought that Pure Hell was their drug dealers.
You got these four black dudes.
Yeah, four black dudes hanging out. In drag, just like them.
That's what people thought. They were like the fucking drug dealers. Or the gang, or the posse, to beat people up.
To beat them up. But they were having problems at the Chelsea, so they kind of had to leave anyway, so moving into the Dolls loft only made sense. Johnny Thunders of Dolls was really into Pure Hell, and he wanted to help them.
Yeah.
He got them some gigs at Max's Kansas City, and a place called Mother's, which used to be across the street from the Chelsea on 23rd Street. Also, Andy Warhol's magazine Interview had pieces about them in numerous issues. He actually...
Of Pure Hell?
Yeah. Okay, they were starting to have a little bit of a buzz. The Dolls were on their way out. This was 75. The Heartbreakers were about to start. Okay? So the industry was, the punk scene was starting.
Changing.
The music scene was getting away from the glam and getting into like more of a punk thing. And they were right there at the beginning of it, 75. So,
yes, they were.
Yeah. Now, Andy Warhol being, hanging out at Max's all the time, probably saw them and said, let's do a couple interviews or have some pictures of them in Interview Magazine, which was his magazine.
That was the hangout. Max's
Kansas City.
Kansas City was the hangout.
Yeah. Now, they needed management, and bass player Lenny Bowles tracked down Curtis Knight, who was the singer of the Squires, which was Jimi Hendrix's first band.
Yeah.
Okay? Actually tracked him down, found out where he lived, and showed up at his house one night and just said, I'm here.
I'm here.
And we need a manager. And Knight was married to a woman named Kathy Knight, and they were business partners as well as being married. So they kind of like were really impressed with the fact that he even just showed up and was very, very aggressive like that. And they went down to one of the shows they were playing and were blown away. In fact, singer Kenny Gordon did a backflip off the stage and landed on their table. So it was like it was crazy shit. Yeah, I mean, definitely make an impression. And Curtis Knight actually said, "Shit, I've got 4 Jimi Hendrixes on my hands right now."
Why does that make me think I'm coming to America?
You're fucking crazy.
His mind.
Oh my god!
How does your mind work, Rob? Now the Knights would sacrifice about 3 months' rent to get them a European tour.
Yeah.
So they would use some of their own money because they were so impressed with them. And the success of that tour, they actually were able to put out a single, and it was a cover of Nancy Sinatra's "These Boots Are Made for Walking."
Yep.
And it was a great version. It would actually go to number 4 in the UK. That single on the alternative charts of that year. This was about 78 or so.
And the other
79.
song was "No Rules."
No rules. Right. They were photographed by Bob Gruen, the famous rock photographer, in front of Buckingham Palace on that tour. And they were promoted as the world's only black punk band. Now, Lenny Bowles,
What year was this?
this was about 78, 79.
Okay.
Yeah. They were.
was still doing that thing, though, 78, you said.
Who? Death?
Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody knew who they were.
Right.
Nobody had heard the music. Nobody really knew who they were. They couldn't put anything out because of the name. But Lenny Bowles, who said, I don't want to be known as a black punk band, he was kind of upset with them promoting it that way.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, but he kind of ate it and took it because they wanted to play Europe. They played Holland and the UK actually, and they were accepted very widely. Before they even came there was a hype. So when they got there, it was a big thing.
But Mike, think about these guys.
Yeah.
Def had all the recorded albums. These guys haven't really even recorded an album. When they did record they recorded a single.
Only
with
after they
another song.
toured.
Yeah. But I mean,
That's a lot of
that's
hype.
all they had.
That's all they had.
Technically, that's all they had.
That's all they had.
And that's all the hype they needed to fucking be so successful.
Yeah.
But they still,
But it got fucked up.
It
It got fucked up. Okay, now one thing I want to mention is when they
You know,
were in
they dropped
England.
I think fucking Knight was the one that fucked them. to
Well,
tell you the truth.
well, that's coming up. I mean, we'll talk
Motherfucker.
about that. Now, what would happen here is when they were in Europe, one of the things that I've always liked about the UK punk scene, and I've mentioned this many times, is their reggae influences.
Yeah.
Okay. The punks in the UK were very open to reggae music, and Pure Hell was impressed by that. So they were hanging out with UK punk rockers,
Yeah.
but they were listening to stuff that Don
Yeah.
Letts was putting
Yep.
out. The reggae music and everything was a big thing. The problem was that they couldn't get a record deal, basically, and most labels wanted them to change their name as well.
Yeah.
Just like Death, they had a problem with Pure Hell, okay, using that name, and they also wanted to change their sound. They would get requests like, "Look, it's good, but you guys should be more danceable." Well, we're not doing that kind of music.
Yeah, they weren't even disco.
No,
Nowhere near it.
nothing close to it.
They were like hardcore.
They would do a second tour in Europe in 1979, but during that tour they had a falling out with Curtis Knight.
Yep.
And they parted ways in Europe, and Curtis Knight came back to the States in a huff with their master tapes,
Yep.
swearing to never work with them again. And basically, if it wasn't for Kathy Knight, he would have burned those tapes. He wanted to burn them.
Wow.
Now, I, to this day, don't know exactly what happened, okay? I'm sure, if I could talk to Chip, find out, okay? And I was talking to Chip last month.
Yeah.
We were hoping to get him on for this show. I'm glad I did.
Thank you.
But
You know what I think happened? I think they lumped the motherfucker up. I think that's what happened.
remember they beat him up with a phone
They,
book? Yeah.
they fucking. I think that's what really happened because you know they wanted to make an album. This guy was too busy doing a bunch of other shit other than taking care of his band, and they say, "Dude, what's our album?"
I don't know. Now
Because he recorded some damn.
they recorded some stuff while they were in Europe because the second tour was allowing them to make a little money, and they put it into recording. And but they had no money because once they parted ways when they fought, Pure Hell was stranded in Europe. It took them like a little while to get back. Okay.
Oh my word.
Yeah. And they actually ended up relocating in L.A. Because when they came back to New York, they got caught up in the whole Sid Vicious thing, 79.
Yeah.
Okay. Because 79 and 80, that whole year when that was going on. Yeah, anything they would get questioned about, cops wanted to talk to them, and all that stuff. And they ended up going to LA, and they would do shows with the Cramps. The Cramps relocated out there. They would do shows with the Germs, okay? Yeah, but the sad thing is the band would fizzle out by 1980. It really could, they couldn't get signed, and their interest music was kind of becoming more new wave. They didn't like that, and that was kind of the end of them for a long time. Now, in the early 2000s, Kathy Knight put up the master tapes on auction on eBay.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Now,
and who bought those
a
things?
guy named Mike Schneider from Welfare Records, bought it and released it in 2006 as the Noise Addiction album. All right, I think I might have sent you that clip.
That's
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the whole album.
I thought it was Henry Rollins.
No, Henry Rollins released the original single.
The single, that's
I think
what
a
it
couple
was.
of years later. Okay, he bought the original acetate of These Boots Are Made for Walking, and he put it out on his own label. Now, sadly, drummer Michael Sanders would die in 2003, but he had a friend named Gina Parker. Yeah. Parker Lawton actually was her name, and she was like an indie talent rep, and she has been very instrumental in pushing people to recognize Pure Hell. Okay. She actually got them into the American Museum of History and Culture, and as I think that's actually I spelled that wrong. I think it's the African American Museum of History and Culture. Okay, and his jacket, Sanders' leather jacket, is going to be part of their induction when they get in there. Now, I got some information. I'm not sure how recent it was. They might be in there now. Okay, but there's been a resurgence into like who Pure Hell was. Now, the Bad Brains always said Pure Hell was an influence on them because they came a good 2 years or so before. All right. In January of 2020, this year, I got to see Chip play. Okay, Chip has a new band. He's down in Philadelphia. He's got a new band called Street Vengeance, and they played right over here at Niagara.
Wow.
Okay, it was part of that A7 reunion stuff that goes on every so often. I was impressed. He can still play. He really was shredding it. I was really impressed. I got to talk to him a little bit on the phone. It's called Street Vengeance. Yeah, not much about them if you're looking online. I haven't been able to find much. They just started. They're just a brand new band out of Philly. And I'm going to keep an eye on them when they come here again. We'll try to
Definitely
see them again.
gotta keep an eye on them.
So that's all I got for you, Mr. Rob.
I got a little bit of information because then they actually got together and they did the album. They released their 13 song collection.
Yeah.
And they even went to a point that they made this black album with two of the guys.
Oh, you're talking about the album with
the
Lemmy?
Black Box with Lemmy.
That was never released. It was done in the early 80s with two of the guys from Pure Hell and Lemmy from Motorhead. Lemmy singing a song called The Call.
The Call, yes.
Yeah, and I only have heard that song maybe once.
Once?
Okay. Yeah.
But I thought that was a little weird history there.
That was when they were out in LA. I think they did that briefly, but it wasn't really Pure Hell. Okay. It was like the two guys from Pure Hell with Lemmy and a couple other people in the studio fucking
still
around.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah. Anytime you're in the presence of Lemmy.
What do you like better, the music or the lyrics?
Of Pure Hell? I think it just goes hand in hand. I mean, they're a great punk band. Yeah. My background is all that stuff. So when I hear something like Pure Hell,
Dude, they were like high energy, like
high energy. They're kind of like a Black
rock.
Dead Boys.
Yes,
I love it.
That's what they
Love
compared it to. They compared it to like the
did
Dead
used to get
Boys.
compared to the Dead Boys.
The
yeah.
Dead Boys. They got like
But because they would have stage antics like backflips.
Yeah.
Like Steve Baders used to stick his head in the fucking bass drum.
That was.
All right, you know, and crazy stuff like that. Pull his dick out and everything on stage.
Wendy-O, Dead Boys.
Wendy-O, yeah,
Big
yeah,
influences.
yeah. You know, I think you.
Yeah, they were. You know what? They were.
Stage
They were comparable to the MC5, Sex Pistol, and the Dead Boys,
Dead Boys.
saying that these guys were all the same.
Absolutely. Check out Pure Hell. Check out Death. Now, in your opinion, Rob, what's the first black punk band?
I'm gonna go with.
After all this has been said,
you know what? I'm gonna go with Pure Hell because they actually
Okay.
moved to New York. They were down with the CBG.
they were in the middle of it.
And
Yeah.
the Max's Kansas City, all that stuff. So they were with the people, and they did tours in Europe, and they performed. Def never really performed too much until later on. These guys performed right away, but they never really went anywhere.
Now I'm gonna say the same
it's
exact
too tragic story either way.
I'm gonna say the exact same thing. They were right in the middle of it all when that first tier of punk bands were playing here in the city, changing the world, music world with it. They were right in the middle of it. So I put them as the first black punk band. Death is a great band. I'm glad they've been discovered. They're more proto-punk, not to take away from anything they did musically, because I like it. Everything they put out, I like. It's not quite punk. It's definitely, had they been out there playing, they would have been very influential. And who knows where that would have went.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree
Now,
with both.
I'm gonna let you make the final decision. Who's the first black punk band?
Well, I agree with you both
Right.
as Pure Hell, but for different reasons.
Explain.
I think that in order to be considered the first of anything, you had to have been influential and acknowledged by others. And although Death recorded a lot, no one knew a thing about
No one
them.
heard it. Yeah.
So you can't be the first if no one knew of you.
Right.
Yeah,
So I'm
Exactly.
gonna go with Pure Hell.
yeah. And think about Pure Hell influenced the Bad
Bad
Brains.
Brains.
Bad Brains.
That's all you
And
need.
and then it goes out from there.
Yeah.
Okay. The Bad Brains influenced a lot of people too.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Yeah.
So that's the way you get it. So let's talk a little bit about your band. When are you getting together? When you doing a show? What's going on with you?
Psychomotor Retardation.
That's the name of her band.
We will be recording some new music really soon. We have no upcoming dates for performances, but we will. But the most important thing is we got new music coming. So
That's
That's what we
important.
want to hear.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's what we
what
wanna
I said.
hear.
We'll be recording new music.
And definitely let me know, and I will be there, and maybe we'll do a live feed, or we'll do something.
We go and do a percent
We
with
could
her.
do right. We could, when you're ready.
And we
when you're
have
ready,
a studio now.
Yeah, we can come down to the studio.
Yeah.
You know, get involved.
Maybe
with
do a show from the studio.
if you want.
No, if you
I
want,
like
we can do
live.
it.
I love live.
All right.
Yeah.
We can do. I can bring a camera. We could do live. Like that, we're live on Facebook Live. There's probably a bunch of people. But a lot of people make comments also. We've been having a lot of people watch, a lot of comment.
Yeah.
Your boy Matt was actually where you wearing that shirt, the lamb shirt, LA.
LAMF.
Yeah.
Oh, who asked that? Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he bought it for me.
Yeah, it's
All right. Next show, I'm gonna wear it for you, Matt.
yeah.
Thank you.
So he want to know that. Another thing, people. I guess that's it. How can we get in touch with you, Mike?
You can find me on Instagram, RockerMike212. You can find me on Twitter, RockerMike3. And you can find me on Facebook under my real God-given name, Michael Baker.
And Sapphire, how can we find you if they want to get in touch with you?
you're out there.
Or your band.
Same
Yep.
thing. You can find me on Instagram, Psychomotor Retardation Band, or on Facebook at my God-given name, Lunas. So there you go. But if you really want to get in contact with the band, just email Psychomotor Retardation.
At what?
Gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
Okay.
Remember that Gmail.
Psycho Moto Retardation.
Yep.
It's got the word retard in it.
Yeah.
It's great.
And you know me, you can find me at anything getting lumped up. In Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Watch the video, subscribe, and as you know, me and Mike are going to be changing the format real
Right.
soon. And we won't be doing live on Facebook. We're going to want you guys to come onto our YouTube channel
And check it out
and
there.
check it out there. And then we're also going to do like special video there that'll show just for the YouTube audience. Like the Rossi rant won't longer be on Facebook. I might do it after I do it, then I'll upload it up to Facebook
later on, but it'll be on YouTube.
But it'll be on YouTube because
Yeah.
I got like 4 or 5 episodes I need to put up. You know,
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, a lot of.
We do it for you people.
Yeah, and I've been spending a lot of my time editing, and I'm losing my mind. So people,
What little there is.
yeah, it's a little, it's very little. So people, God bless, have a good one, and remember,
Don't get drunk.
get lumped up. Have a good one.